And we're going. And we're live. Here with Logan Fulton.
Hello.
Hello. And we're honoring the quarantine, staying 6 feet apart.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun. Yeah, I was just saying how I've been enjoying doing these a lot. Like when I was on the lawnmower, I was listening to like past conversations, and it just like time just flew by.
Oh yeah.
It's like fun re-listening to them.
Right.
I think it helps too because like it makes your brain focus on a conversation. I think that's why people like podcasts so much, because it gets out of your own head.
Right.
And it's like you're in listening mode.
Right.
And I don't know, it's a better mental space to be in.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think that's why podcasts have been so addictive for people. But yeah, I've been wanting to start this for like ever. And I was always like making excuses. And now I'm like, no. Why?
Yeah.
Just go for it.
We've got plenty of free time right now.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too is like, I always do this thing where probably will in the future too, like, oh, it has to be this way before I start doing anything.
Yeah, I do that same thing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but with this, I'm just like, I'm just going to start and learn as I go.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do a lot of pretty much most things that are new to people.
Yeah, because it builds momentum. Like, you just get excited about doing it and learning and keep going.
Right.
I think the big tragedy is somebody starts something and then they get negative feedback, either in their own head or somebody else, and then they just quit. They're like, oh, that sucks. And I'm kind of like, well, if you enjoy it enough and it's for the right reasons, you'll just keep going, because it's not about what other people say or think. It's just like your joy factor just carries you through it.
Yeah.
So that's been my big reflection time through all this, is really sifting through the things I do in life that aren't meaningful to me versus the things that really are.
Right.
And then my motives for doing certain things. It's really made me like go deep. So, and being out here on the lake's been, dude, like so awesome. It's like a monastery.
Right. Especially right now, no one's out.
No one's out, yeah. But if I didn't have roommates, like I would go probably a little bit crazy.
Oh, definitely.
Like The Shining.
Yeah. Well, he had roommates.
Yeah. Well, okay. Uh-oh. This better not last long. What? How about you? What's it like been? What's it been like for you? Like since
it's been kind of rough.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from other things going on in life, but yeah, I mean, you know, I usually go on, you know, drives and stuff and excursions just out and about, just as a way to relieve stress or, you know, just do some thinking, but having to worry about, you know, getting infected or getting sick and then potentially getting pulled over or something is rough, regardless of where I'm going or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hard time right now for sure.
What do you think specifically? I mean, you kind of mentioned some obvious ones, but like, what specifically do you think it makes it hard, quote unquote?
I think the lack of just human interaction on a connection with another person. It's hard to get that right now. And so like doing something like this where I can come out and I can talk with somebody and just kind of enjoy the night, not by myself.
Yeah.
It's nice. But yeah, definitely the social isolation is the roughest part for me, at least.
Yeah, I think it's like showing how we take interaction for granted.
Definitely, I agree.
There was this. You ever listen to Radiolab?
Yeah.
Do you listen to that? Well, I forget what the title was. It was like, I want to say it was Morality.
I have not.
I think it was Morality, and they were talking about how they were trying to. The Quakers first invented solitary confinement because they thought if somebody sat in silence long enough, they would correct their ways, like see the errors of their wrong, if they went deep enough within.
Right.
But it turned out that they all went crazy and they had to shut it down because they made it like silent. They put like rubber padding on the wheels.
Oh man.
And like the shoes had like covers, so the guards would walk, or the people that delivering meals would walk. You couldn't hear them.
That's
So
rough.
complete silence, complete isolation. Yeah, everybody went crazy.
I believe it. Yeah, especially being in a room with nothing to do. Whereas here we get to stay in our comfy homes and have access to all of our pleasures and whatnot.
Do you think? I mean, we get some interaction, obviously, through tech.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, like, that's enough, or does it?
No, not at all.
But it fills something, right?
I think it does, but I mean, I think of it the same way as scrolling through Facebook or Reddit is the same as reading a book, right?
Oh.
It's reading, sure, and you're getting information, or you're getting entertainment out of it, sure, but you don't remember it. You don't cherish it, really. It's just kind of like, okay, here's something to kill the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't like texting, and the only time I really talk to people is when I'm playing video games or hanging out.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Video games, like through where you play online, other people?
Just online or whatever. We all have a Discord server, and so we can all hop in there and talk with each other. But I mean, if these people were accessible via real life to hang out, I would much rather do that.
Okay. So if you could put on like a percentage, like 0 to 100, what percentage would you say like fills your, I don't know what to call this tank, social,
The Sims has a social bar.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll call it the social bar then.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, like a phone call or a FaceTime versus real proximity. Like, what would you say the percentage difference is?
I mean,
that
I think
fills your social tank personally?
for me personally, that's rough. It really depends on the people, I guess, and the quality of the conversation. I would say 30%. It's really not much. I mean, it's kind of more of a distraction rather than really, connecting with a person or just being around another person. When like when you're a kid and you go to your first sleepover,
Yeah.
you feel homesick or something.
Yeah, that's true.
You crave, your mom's comfort.
Yeah.
You can't really get that comfort without being next to the person who provides it.
Yeah, something happens there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. I think
If we could measure that, what is that? Is it an energy?
yeah, I guess energy is one word to use, one way to look at it. I don't know. It's a hard one, I guess.
Yeah, because like I don't know if there's any scientific measuring tool that can capture that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
The hippies call it aura, right?
Yeah,
People have
definitely.
auras, and when you're close to somebody else, your aura kind of interacts with their aura.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever noticed, like, somebody enters a room and the energy just shifts,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
or you enter a room and you're not in a good mood and everybody's looking at you funny and you're like, you try to hide it, but everybody knows. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm the one who shifted the energy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy right now.
It's a weird. Over the last couple of months, I've been learning to really embrace my inner instincts more so than really trying to logically do a lot of things, because that usually leads to overthinking. And I think I have a pretty good gut, so I've been trying to trust it more. But I think that's the same type of thing with the feeling that we're talking about getting from another person.
Yeah.
It's like there's this need that we have that can't be satiated without
Satiated. Define that. That's a big
satiated.
college word. College man. Did you go to college?
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Satiated. Yeah. What does it mean?
Satiated. Acquiring fulfillment in a given area.
Okay.
That could be off, but
Sounds right. Now I know. Well, yeah, that's what you're saying. So.
So I think that instinct feeling that we get when we do certain things, or you walk into a dangerous situation and you immediately recognize it, you feel uncomfortable. I think it's the same way like when you go visit a loved one. You walk in and you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever studied the Enneagram?
I have not.
They talk about this. There's 3. It's not quadrants because that's 4. What is a 3? A triad? Yeah. The triad within the 9, because there's 9 numbers and 3 numbers for each section.
Okay.
And 8, 9s, and 1s. Those types of people. I mean, I'm not going to get too far into it, but I mean, you could ask about it. But there's a lot to it.
Okay.
It's one of the most ancient personality type systems that kind of shows you what type you've unconsciously
Fallen into, or...
Yeah, well, you chose as a child to survive.
Right.
So it shows you like what you've chosen, kind of like your avatar, your costume, defense costume, or armor that you've chosen to wear.
Would ego be a word?
Kind of.
Is that
Yeah, I guess
interchangeable?
I think. I mean, there's so many layers to it.
Right.
But I like to. I guess yeah. So it shows you this is what you've chosen to wear, and here's how to get out of it. Okay. So it's not so much showing who you are; it's showing who your false self is.
Okay.
And your like defense mechanisms.
Right.
So it's kind of like not a feel good journey to go down. It kind of shows you like, okay, this is a skill I've developed, but these are the like deep dark reasons and fears and insecurities why. Right. So it makes you look at that stuff and you're like, oh geez. Yeah. It's a really cool journey. Really profound actually, because then it's like, who are you after that? Like, who is that person? And that's where it gets interesting. Because I think it's the undefinable person. Like, right. Like I say, where eyes meet and words end is where we are. So for instance, I'm rabbit trailing a little bit here, but like pretend you were going to introduce me to one of your friends that never met me. Okay. And you did all these like descriptions and accomplishments and whatever definitions you could land on. I would argue that person wouldn't really know me.
Makes sense.
Right? So something happens in proximity of somebody where you get a sense of them that you can't capture in words or definitions.
Right, yeah.
So I think whatever that is, whatever is beyond definition in each person is who we are. And that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because it's like, and I think that's whatever that is, another person is the person we fall in love with. Like, not like dopamine fall in love, but like, well, that could happen too, but that like, I guess you could call it divine love or
soulmates.
No, I mean just like even just a family kind of love, even though they're not your family, like your best friend or oh man, I love that guy, like, or that whoever. Okay. That whatever that is a knowing, and from that knowing comes that feeling of love. Okay. And I think that's an important thing to lean into, and also realize that could be experienced with anybody in the world. Right. And that's why I like doing this kind of stuff, because I think it helps connect people on a deeper level beyond this meat kind of suit and all these different definitions the world has for us. Anyway, back to the triad. So 8, 9s, and 1s, they take in information from the world through their gut. Okay. And then the 2, 3, and 4s, they take information first through their heart. Okay. And then the 6, did I mess this up? 2, 3s, and 4s, yeah, take it through the heart. 5, 6s, and 7s take it through the head. Okay. So you could break it down into like IQ is the head, and then EQ is the heart, so intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and then the G1 is interesting, gut intelligence, GQ. Okay. And what happens with the GQ types is they take in information 100 times faster, that intuitive kind of feeling, than the heart that takes in information 10 times faster than the mind. Right. So if you're in the triad of the 8, 9, and 1, which I am, we take in information like 100 times faster, and that's why we don't understand what we're feeling. Right. But we're feeling it. Like I can feel energy in a room before I walk into it. Right. Or I could feel totally off and not know why. And I need time to for my heart to process it, and then my mind to analyze it. Right. And then I could actually talk about it. So that's when it's been tricky in my personal relationships. She'll be like, "What's wrong? You okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I wish I could tell you. And then by the time I do figure it out and I go back and talk with her, it's weird and too late.
You lose the words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that exact feeling very well.
So you might be a GQ in the GQ triad.
I could be, yeah. It's weird. I feel like I really juggle between the gut and the mind.
Okay. Yeah, well,
and-
that's the polar opposite.
Yeah, and I also feel like I don't really ever get to use the heart.
Interesting.
It's almost like, I don't know why. It just feels like I get a feeling, and then I immediately go to logically thinking about it. So if I, walk in a room
Yeah.
and I get a negative vibe, I immediately go to the brain. Why do I feel this? I essentially use my brain to dismiss the way my gut feels and interprets things.
Oh.
And it's very detrimental, at least to me. I think it's led to a lot of bad. That's why I want to learn to go with the gut a little bit more.
Like rest in that more before you just go straight to the head?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have an example that, you don't have to get too personal, but you could use a light example. If not, that's all right.
I can't think of one that's not too personal.
Okay, then that's fine. We just met. No, I was joking. Jeez, we just met.
But yeah, I don't know the reason. I think it's just because, when we're kids, we're taught to almost ignore the gut,
Yeah,
to
for
not
sure.
trust it.
For sure,
So-
especially in this culture.
Yeah,
I would say it's a culture-specific thing.
I agree. And I think that's just a bad way to look at things in general, because it's not like the gut is. I feel like it's unique because the heart feels things, but the gut also feels things. So it's also emotional, like the feeling you get when you walk in that room. It's an emotion that you feel. Would you agree, or is it?
I don't know. It's hard to put into categories because it is so. I don't know if I want to use the word abstract, or it's. How would I break that down into categories?
I don't know.
I think it's the difference between sense and feel.
Right. Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
I sense something. I don't know if I necessarily have feelings about it yet.
Right.
Like, I might not be angry or sad or in love quite yet, but I sense that there's, somebody's angry, or there's conflict, or somebody's scared, or...
So you're saying it's like an emotion detector.
Yeah, I think that's a better way.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, but I think that's a better way to describe it. And then it bleeds into my heart really quick, so it's kind of empathetic. So if there's anger in the room, I might actually start to feel angry.
I get that as well, yeah.
And not know why. Or fear is a big one, especially right now when I go to the grocery store, I can feel the anxiety, and that makes me anxious, but I'm in my logic, in my mind, I'm like, there's no reason for me to feel fear.
Yeah.
But it's so overwhelming, and it kind of bothers me. It's I kind of like what you were saying. It's a stumbling block, or it's gotten in your own way. Because I know in my mind, I'm like, this shouldn't bother me, but it does, and I just get really annoyed with it. And so I've been learning to make boundaries. You know what? I can't be in the city too long. I have to be in nature because more time out of the week than not. Because if I'm in the city more than nature, I'm just off. And that's just kind of how I'm wired. I'm learning. So I'm learning that's a limitation I have. Some people can just, thrive in New York City.
Yeah, I don't know how people can do that.
Yeah.
Drive in New York City.
Yeah. And what's really frustrating is that my mind can multitask really well, but if that feeling or that sense is overwhelming in an area, I can't access my multitask ability.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, and then I get really, really annoyed because I'm like, oh, I know I can figure this out, but that whatever that frequency or energy is just throwing me off. So
I don't know. I think. Do you think that a reason why this type of stuff just isn't really talked about more is because, when we sense things,
yeah,
it's not like something that we can prove. Like if we're walking down this road at night, and I say stop, I feel like someone's watching us in the bushes, and I get that I swear I feel someone watching. It's just a feeling, but it might still be that same feeling you get when you know something is wrong, and you can confirm later on.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I guess it's just because it's not really a scientific thing.
It's not scientific.
It's
There's no way to
just-
measure it.
Yeah, it's just feelings and stuff like that.
That's interesting you bring that up because there's been some quantum physics studies about people that, like really high IQ people, like in casinos or whatever, that, they got all the numbers figured out and they're really smart with like what's Rain Man?
Yeah.
And they said sometimes they know the numbers are right, but they go with their intuition and they win.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And they know that they can feel the difference. They're like, okay, no, go with the numbers here. No, go with intuition here. Right. And it'll be a totally like, the odds are totally not in their favor, but they still win because they went with the intuition, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like the topic.
Oh, it's fascinating. My thing is like, I minored in philosophy and I would bring this up in class and I don't know if I was just way off or people weren't willing to engage me, but it was kind of laughed off. But I was kind of like, well, like X-rays or infrared, all that stuff has always existed. But there was a time we didn't know that stuff existed until we had the instrument to detect it. But it doesn't mean that stuff didn't exist.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying that maybe we can eventually measure this gut feeling or the sense.
And maybe a lot of other things. Like, why does it need to just cap off?
Right.
And I think that's the dangerous side of quote unquote science is in my mind, science is an amazing way of saying anything is possible and always that there's always a possibility that something could be.
Yeah.
There's no cap to it. And that by definition is science. Like you say, you have a high level of confidence in something or a low level of confidence in something based on your evidence so far.
Right.
Yes, there's going to be, like, if I'm holding this pine cone or whatever and I let go of it, we have a high level of confidence that it's going to, gravity's going to pull it to the center of the earth or whatever.
Right.
But if you're going with, like, by definition of science, like the pure definition, there could be a chance that it wouldn't. Right. Based on some variables that maybe we haven't discovered or thrown in there yet, or
glitch in the system.
Yeah. To me, that's kind of where the magic is. Like,
definitely. I mean, I think that is magic.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
Well, things like, I bet before before Newton or whatever, like, why does this thing fall? Like, that's magic. Like, until he figured it out, and then it became within I don't know what words to use, a academic discussion or I don't know.
I think I understand what you're going for.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of things that so much to discover.
Yeah.
To me, that just makes me curious and fascinated and interested and makes me want to keep going, learning, as opposed to like, no, that's all there is. Yeah, okay.
That's a good way to look at it. I think I don't really have a problem with science, or at the beginning of your last bit there, you said something that's what worries you about science, or?
I think in my mind, looking at it as the end all be all.
Right. And I don't think that's science's fault. I think it's just the way a lot of people interpret things nowadays.
Yeah.
I think
as black or white.
Yeah. And I it's like the people who read a headline and then immediately think they know something. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, well, the headline could have just been clickbait.
Yeah.
Or they see a headline and then that's fact.
Yep.
Period.
That's it. Yeah. End of story. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't look into things. They don't question stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the beauty of science to me is like, and quantum physicists and astrophysicists, they say the more they discover, the more they know, the more they realize they don't know.
Right.
Like it keeps unfolding into like, oh my gosh, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
I like that edge of discovery, of understanding reality. That's really fascinating. And it's interesting you said, like, it's not science's fault. It's a fear reaction to just end your knowledge on something. And the Enneagram, the sixes actually have a high anxiety, very high anxiety. That's kind of like their thing, is they grew up in a very anxious maybe household or culture. And so they chose the armor that would protect them against anxiety.
Right.
And what protects them is being certain about something.
Right.
So if you can tell them that they're going to be safe and this is why, then they can just shut off the anxiety. But with that comes, they kind of end their journey because they're not willing to keep going in that fear. And the majority of the population apparently are sixes.
I believe it.
Yeah, the population of the world.
Yeah.
So then that gets into, okay, well, if you're a political leader or a leader of a country,
Right.
you can say, well, here's something dangerous, and it might not be. I will protect you.
Yeah.
So you better follow me to be protected or have my vote. And so then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
oh no. That's how you can manipulate a group of people.
Yeah. Use their fears and their comforts against them.
Yeah, sad but true.
Yep.
So then what's the cure of that? How do you cure fear? How do you cure anxiety?
You know, that's the $1 million question. I think anxiety and depression.
Depression's a tough one too.
Yeah, I think they're so rampant nowadays, and I don't know what can really be done aside from what's currently out there. I don't know how important this is to people, to researchers, to just you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
The
if
motivation.
this is a priority.
Yeah, where's the motivation? Like,
Yeah.
where's the why?
Because you know, if the people who are anxious and depressed stay that way, maybe they're going to go buy a product that'll, help them either in the meantime or hopefully in the future as well.
Yeah.
To get over that. So it's kind of a really negative way to look at it, but
it's realistic probably.
yeah, and I think this is getting into like just a bunch of stuff. We could go into money and politics with it, but yeah, I experienced a lot of anxiety and depression. And I don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah. What's helped though?
Driving,
like you were
going
saying.
on drives is almost the only way I can just escape whatever I'm feeling for the time being. And yeah, so I do it whenever I need to.
Yeah.
So in like this situation where I'm not allowed to, or I shouldn't be.
Oh man,
now
that's
I
rough.
have to worry about my only escape
Oh,
having
dude.
negative consequences when normally it would just be going on a drive. So
Yeah.
it's real rough for me.
Oh yeah, dude. Interesting. I think that would be like me if I couldn't go for runs.
Yeah, or what if you were stuck in the city when this quarantine happened and you couldn't leave
Oh, no.
the city?
I'd go crazy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so I guess that comes back then to what is considered essential.
Oh man. Oh, dude.
If a severely depressed person is on the verge of doing something really dumb
Yeah.
or impulsive because they can't use their only escape or something.
And would a cop understand that?
Yeah, it's like I'm out here because I'm trying to stay alive.
Yeah. Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah.
I'll make sure it's still recording. 28. We might have to do two sections, dude. This flew by.
Keep it rolling. We'll just walk around the lake.
Seriously, I could.
There's my alarm.
Okay. I think we're gonna do 2 takes.
All right.
I'm just gonna let it run.
Okay.
See if because it tends to shut off at 31 minutes and like 20 seconds.
Okay.
I don't know why.
That is weird.
But let's see if it stays true to its
What's your
past.
storage looking like?
My storage? Oh, it's good. I got like 30 gigs. I got one of those phone cleaners because I got a Droid.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been on top of that.
Yeah, because the video. Can we cut this out? Or
Doesn't matter. Oh yeah, we could. Okay.
yeah, just 'cause
Well,
we're getting off.
No,
topic.
that's part of it. It's all it's natural conversation. So that's the other thing too, is that I like keeping it, what we're talking about is what we're talking about. So then nobody feels, and I don't feel like I have to stay on topic, because then it feels contrived or unnatural.
Yeah.
So I like to just keep it rolling. And I don't like to edit it either. I just like, because then it's...
Oh yeah, that's totally fine.
That's the whole point of it, is like, it's raw. I mean, it's real you adventures. There's no, this is it. I think that's something that gets lost in like the news and like sound bites, is you lose the authenticity of kind of a back and forth of a conversation, which I think when you can have that in a podcast, like it feels natural. It's like, you kind of sink into the conversation and you feel like you're with them.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
I watched
so
Joe Rogan's podcast with Russell Brand.
Oh, dude, I love Russell Brand.
I love him so much. Like,
his mind is like, I would be intimidated to like talk to him, because it's so quick. But I think I think I could get into it. But anyway,
absolutely. Go. I was never not entertained for like the 3-hour interview.
Yeah.
And they didn't seem like they even noticed 3 hours had gone by.
Yeah.
But
he's one of the most articulate
I
guys.
think he only grew up reading a thesaurus. I mean, that's it. This is a whole literature.
Yeah. And he's really kind too in his conversations. Like,
absolutely. He's so open.
Yeah. And I don't feel like he uses his... Boop. Yeah, ended at 31 minutes and 24 seconds. So we're starting take 2. Well, not take, but we're just... Part 2, there it is. But I was just saying with Russell Brand, I don't know if he knows, like, he's got a superpower.
I think he does.
But he does, and if he does, he doesn't use it against people.
No,
like,
not at all.
He's like, oh, I'm so smart and articulate, and I will just destroy you with my verbal whatever.
Yeah, I think it's because he's so open and he wants to understand others. And I think that might even be why he is so articulate, is because he wants to make sure people understand him and where he's coming from as clear as possible. So that way he can actually have an appropriate conversation or response to whatever they say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and that's what I resonate with Russell, is he's finding that frequency like we're talking about with somebody. And he finds, I think you can tell he finds joy in just being with somebody in conversation, and not in kind of like I don't know if you've ever talked with somebody where it feels like it's a battle as opposed to like a flow.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like he just really enjoys the flow of being with somebody.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, and so that's kind of my jam too, is like, even if there wasn't any talking, just being in that flow with someone is, like, to me, one of the best things to experience. Like, if you think back on your life, of your best experiences, it's usually been when you're in that flow with another person or group of people.
Yeah.
I would say majority of the time. I have experienced in solitude that feeling. I would say that's, I guess, quote unquote, a spiritual kind of experience. But I have felt kind of a deep connection or warm kind of, what's a good way to describe it? Like being in an ocean of just, I guess, bliss in solitude, especially in nature.
Right.
Like I'm feeling saturated or embraced by it.
Right.
And it's the most...
It's like you're a part of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it gives me like an anchor, like, okay, I know I can have this.
Yeah.
And then it makes people, places, and things that I could get dopamine fixes from less powerful over me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I think that's an aim that I'm for, and I think I can say that like with confidence now, just because I'm 40 years old and I've experienced enough where I have a data pool of like, that does not work, this does work, and I can kind of put them in categories for me. Right. I wouldn't say for anybody else, but you know, have had my struggle with vices, still have vices, but I do know that I can be free from those, and I have been freed from a lot of vices in my past. Like things that had control over me, or I let have control over me in the past, like I'm free from, and that's a really cool feeling. Like I'm not even tempted.
Right.
Like there was a time where I got into gambling for a bit, and I was addicted for like a year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's weird. It totally like consumes your thinking. It's
Yeah, I
irrational. It's so weird, and I have more empathy and understanding for people that are trapped by that because I was there.
Right.
But now it's like, I don't want to go to a casino. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
and I could just walk through it. I would not put any money down. Like,
Right.
It's something have been freed from,
Okay.
and that's what gives me like hope for my current vices. Like, there's potential to be freed from that, and it could even be a way of thinking, or it, not necessarily like a substance, but like a thought pattern. Like, oh, I can't believe when I was that age I thought that was so real,
Right.
and it had such control over me. And then I have thought patterns now that just like I can't break free from, but I know like in the past I have broken free from other thinking. So why not in the future? I can break free from the current one. So I don't know. That's given me hope.
It's a very positive outlook, and I think it's rare, honestly. And it's just kind of pleasant to be around. I have a really hard time looking at things in a positive light or trying to take the positive from a situation.
I do too, man. Like, don't think I'm some.
Yeah, but you make an effort and you verbalize it and you share it, and most people don't.
Do you think I don't realize that because I'm not around people when they're not sharing it? Because when I'm in conversation, because I feel like people share that stuff with me all the time. Is that just maybe?
Well, here's the thing. That's why I said it's nice to be around, because since you're doing it so openly, it opens up people.
Interesting.
I think. And so yeah, it's easier to get on that level when you kind of have a guide almost.
Oh, I'm just a dude, man.
Or like a facilitator of some kind.
I just, that's interesting. I've been thinking about people's gifts, and I think the beauty of somebody's gift is they don't know they have it,
Right.
so the ego can't attach. Because I don't know I have this gift, because it's natural to me, right? It's just something that I haven't tried to be this, I guess, but people give me this feedback, and the only way I know is from other people's feedback.
Right.
So then that gets into the importance of community, and being around other people, just yourself, and then it gives you value, because you realize, like, innately I have value just being here, and so does everybody else. And the irony is you can't see it in yourself, really. And so that's why we doubt ourselves and we beat ourselves up and we set this weird bar, we compare, right?
Yeah, and it is so nice to just get a compliment. Or
Yeah.
Like how did it give you a certain feeling when I said that, like, it's nice to be around you? It's nice I can open up when I talk to you.
No, it did, because I think we want to know we have value, and we want to know that we're connected and contribute to other people.
Yeah.
Especially when it's something that is effortless, right? Because then it's like I can just relax. My dad told me something when I was 12 years old that stuck with me. It's like, of all the religions and all the philosophies, like, this one was like the common denominator of all those things. He's like driving in the car, it was silent, and it's that moment when he looks over and he's got this profound thing he's gonna say. And I'm like, it's just that moment, right? You'll never forget.
I'm in the picture. Let's hear it.
I set the stage. Yeah, he looks over, he's like, you know what, son? I'm 12. You know what a cell in the body is when it's trying to be something it's not? It's cancer. So it's best just to relax into who you are. And I was,
I like that.
yeah,
I like that a lot.
that's given me a lot of freedom. Because it's like, I just need to relax into who I am and just let it go. I mean, there are things obviously we need to grow with and learn and be better with and all that, but I think innately, I think it's important to rest in we have worth, we have value. And I think if we don't have that as a common denominator, that's when we start getting very reactive,
Right.
and going down some dangerous roads.
Definitely.
I've been there, probably be there again. I mean, that's a part of this crazy journey on this interesting planet. planet is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of everything.
It is. But swinging back real quick to the feeling
Yeah.
of getting a compliment or something.
Sure.
I feel like it's almost non-existent nowadays. Like when I'm with my friends, you don't really just casually give a compliment to one.
Yeah.
It's more of just like it's always playful jabs, or give them a hard time in some area that they struggle with or something. Just like, ha, buddy, gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's never like, hey man, they've been working hard recently. I hope, I just want you to know I noticed that. Whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's awkward, right?
It's awkward to give.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's awkward to receive. I don't think I've ever once felt awkward for receiving a compliment, because I don't get them ever. So it's almost like they're all good. They all feel good.
Yeah.
Unless they just feel disingenuous or something.
Yeah, or like someone's trying to manipulate you.
Yeah, like
make you feel good so they can get something from you.
Yeah, thanks mom, I know I can do anything.
Well, that's a different category.
Yeah.
Moms are just unconditional love all the time.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just walking down the street and, maybe you see a gentleman or a lady who's looking nice today. Oh, you look really nice in an outfit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that simple sentence can be so powerful, but I don't hear it and I don't see it.
Yeah.
As much as I would like to. And I think if that was kind of just woven back into society as a standard way to treat another human being, I think things would dramatically improve.
Do you think that's one of the main reasons, specifically in this culture, why there's so much anxiety and depression? I think that's correlated.
I don't know if that's the cause.
Yeah.
But I do think it could alleviate.
Yeah.
Because, you could be in a city, you're walking down the street at like 12 p.m. on a Monday, lunch rush hour, and there's hundreds and thousands of people around you, but you still feel alone. Like, you're not talking to any of these people. You're not really making eye contact. You're kind of just focusing on not being noticed or not being a burden or embarrassing. And I think that's, we don't want to damage the ego,
Yeah.
That's, I think, what's happening.
Yeah.
But I do, like, if people just casually say hi, like if you go to a small town or something, everyone just kind of says hi to each other. Silverton is a good example. It's like everyone's happy in the morning, everyone says hi to each other, and it's the community.
Yeah.
And I think being a part of a community is important.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest benefits of any religion I can think of, is just being a part of a group of people with similar mindsets.
Yeah. Do you think there's a tipping point when a community becomes unhealthy? And what is that?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can give an accurate answer, because I don't feel like I've been a part of a community in a long time.
Uh-huh.
I have my friends and I have my family, but I don't really have like a thing I belong to, a club or a neighborhood where I knew everyone, or something that kind of just happened naturally.
Yeah.
When it can get too much, I don't know. I think eventually if everyone was going around giving each other compliments all the time, they'd lose their meaning.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it wouldn't be real.
No, exactly. It would always feel like your mom is giving you a compliment or something. It's like, yeah, whatever, thanks.
Yeah.
The last 3 dudes just told me I have a nice shirt, thanks.
Yeah.
What do you think? What is that point?
Oh, I mean, you could do the classic groupthink thing where, like, mob mentality, like where.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, or a cult.
Right.
Where it just gets to a point where it's like, wait a second.
What about commune?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of research on communes. I kind of wanted to start one.
I can see that.
Intentional community. I did a lot of summer camp when I was younger, and I found so much value in it. Like,
I did too, believe it or not.
Yeah, it was great.
It was.
It was like, I worked at a summer camp, ran a summer camp for a bit, like for many summers, mostly just not running it, but like part of it as a counselor or whatever, lifeguard, and it was like a different world.
It really is.
It felt so right. Like, because every day is like, all right, we eat together, we sing together, we play together, and we eat again, and then we do some more activities. Maybe we learn something cool too. And then also, oh, we're gonna do skits later. Oh, plan your skit. That's gonna be fun. Okay, then we have dinner. We have campfire. More singing, and then skits. Oh my gosh, laughter. And then you do it all over again the next day. Then you go, and then you do it again. You do the same, and it's like, this is heaven. Like
it's your world.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
When I was a camp counselor in high school, that was my world for 3 days.
Yeah. And you didn't need like any technology because you were living. You were the TV show.
Yeah, and
it's the best.
The funny, that's actually the last good night's sleep I can remember having.
Yeah.
Waking up and actually feeling rested and just good to start the day.
Yeah. That's how I think we're intended to live, I'll be honest. And maybe that's cult thinking or commune thinking. Maybe that's not realistic. But man, it was so good. Like, because I don't feel like it was a cult. I mean, it was just, I don't know, everyone just got along, and it's hard to put a finger on, but I think it was more of a family vibe and tribe, yeah, I guess is a good way to say it. And everyone felt accepted.
Yeah.
And there was nothing to defend against. There was no, we were, I guess, a unit. And yeah, it's just, it would be weird if you weren't being friendly.
Right, exactly.
I guess is what it comes down to, like kindness and respect for other people and nature. And I mean, because you were living in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a disconnect, I think, which is maybe the blessing of this virus, is it's having us rethink all this stuff as a world.
Right.
And I think there's obviously going to be, and already has been, a lot of tragedy, and there's going to be more. Right. But I try to stay optimistic. Elon Musk, he says it's logical to be optimistic.
Really?
Yeah. He was talking about AI and how he was trying to convince all these world leaders how AI is going to be a major problem, like years ago. And then it, in his mind, it reached the tipping point, like, okay, it's taking over. It has too much ground.
Right.
Like there's no point to fight it. So now his only choice is, well, I could dwell on that it could be awful, because it could be, or I could dwell on that it could all work out.
Right.
And in his day-to-day, if he dwells on the awful outcome, his quality of life is not as good as if he stays optimistic.
Right.
So in his logical mind, he's like, it's more logical to remain optimistic. So I kind of am adopting that in this current situation. Like, optimism is the best choice. It might not be the most realistic, but it's the most logical. Dang it, lost my train of thought. He was talking about AI, autism. Oh yeah, in Survival 101, they say first thing is to stay optimistic. If you go into anxiety or panic, that's just going to make your situation worse.
Right, yeah.
So that's interesting in like Wilderness Survival 101. That's the first thing to keep in check.
Right.
So that's what I'm just kind of taking what I'm learning and applying it the best I can.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think, it's different. Obviously, if, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
No civilization for 10, 20 miles in every direction or something.
Should we
head back?
Yeah, because by the time we're gonna be
getting them raindrops.
Should we walk on this side?
Sure.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But I think if I was in that situation, I'd like to think I'd be able to follow that guideline of don't panic, calm down real quick, stay optimistic, because my life's on the line.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
It's hard to do that just in everyday society.
Yeah.
It's like, I know of all these terrible things I hear all the time on the news or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel helpless because I don't think I can help in a meaningful way enough.
Why don't help? Can you get more specific? Like help in what
I
respects?
guess help or provide a solution to an issue if I have one, or I don't know, be a voice that matters.
What? Why? What is that?
I don't know. I mean, I know you, at least in the past, you talked about how you spend a lot of time thinking about the whole world and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And how you need to stop or something, right? Because
yeah, at some point.
it's hard to, you want to fix so much.
Yeah.
Or you want to help where you can, but you can't. There's no way you can. There's too much
I
to
gotcha.
help with or to help fix. And
that rabbit trail can get overwhelming, and then
so
it defeats its purpose.
exactly. But if you're stuck in that thought process of just kind of everything's going to dookie.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the anxiety and the depression comes from, is because it's happening, but you also don't feel like there's anything you can really do to help just shift the direction it's heading.
Yeah.
So, you spend a lot of time thinking about stuff, and then you eventually, you learn to brush it off. Like, okay, I can't think about it. I'm just going to have to live with my life, and I'll just move on. Mm-hmm. But for me, at least, when I wake up in the morning, I still remember all the bad stuff. So it's really hard for me to get back into that positive train of thinking for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Just learning how to do it naturally, as opposed to being pessimistic about it all.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and
it's
rough.
Yeah, that's because I don't think there's a right or wrong here. Maybe that's just me being overly optimistic. But I think it's a spectrum. Like pessimist. How do I say it? Pessimistic. Being pessimistic is the cure for being naive, I think, right? Because if you're on the naive end of the spectrum, it's you could be totally missing all the important variables that you need to see. As a pessimist will see them, right? Very well. And then an optimist, maybe, I don't know how that falls on the Venn diagram. I think there's a sweet spot with it all. And again, I think this gets back into the importance of community. Because I think all of us have an amazing end of a spectrum that we can offer the whole. And if we're only left with our own end of the spectrum by ourselves, we can go kind of crazy in that one area. But if I'm bringing the end of my spectrum to your end, then it's like, oh, I feel more balanced here. Like I'm saying stuff that resonates with you that maybe pulls you back from your crazy end and vice versa.
Assuming I'm an open-minded person who would be willing to listen to what you said.
Okay, good point. So I guess maybe that's the difference between dialogue and combat.
Yeah.
And that's, again, another quality of just dialogue by itself. But you can't dialogue if you're in fear mode or survival mode, then you're fully defensive. Right. And so that's a catch-22. So if we're in a survival situation and Maslow's hierarchy of needs aren't met, you can't expect to engage with somebody there, or if you are there, to be engaged with. So that's a tricky spot. And I think that's where those that have their needs met, that's where they need to take responsibility and take care of those people.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is brilliant. It's brilliant.
What are the needs again?
I'm going to botch this, but I know that the bottom ones, there's like food, water, shelter, and then like love, like a feeling of belonging is like right in there. Like you could have food, water, shelter, but if you don't have a healthy amount of affection, that can be an issue.
Definitely.
Vice versa, people that maybe their food, water, and shelter aren't ideal, but they have an amazing community of affection, they tend to do better than those.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then above that is then like creativity and like innovation and things like that. Like you have this ability to now start to create. It's like that saying, if you hold a gun to somebody's head and say, move that rock, they're going to move that rock.
Right.
But if you hold a gun to their head and say, come up with a brilliant idea, they can't.
Yeah.
So, so if you know you're safe, then you can start to be creative. You can start to have brilliant ideas, put things together, and solve problems.
On the pessimistic side of that,
Yeah.
what happens in my life? I've noticed that when I try to do these things, to open up, be creative, provide solutions or whatever,
Yeah.
I feel like I've been either shot down so many times or
Interesting.
have been led to believe that what I've suggested is of value, only for nothing to happen.
Okay.
So, it happens so much that eventually I feel like it can really do some permanent damage
Gotcha.
to one's desire to do anything.
So it sounds like those were in relation to toxic connections that where there was no room for dialogue. If I'm accurate, I know what you're talking about.
Well, I think I know what you think I'm talking about.
No, well, what I'm saying for myself, I've been in toxic relationships where I haven't been able to dialogue with said person or people. And it's not just one person, it's multiple experiences in my life and relationships where I just can't dialogue.
Yeah, and I've just decided to stop giving those people my time. I have no interest in a shouting match.
Yeah, and then that's where it gets interesting. I wouldn't necessarily. I think it's healthier to think of that those are situations unique to a dynamic between you and said person or people, and same with me. Just because you can't dialogue with them doesn't mean they can't dialogue with others.
Right.
That just means there's some kind of unforgiven or deep insecurity that is either in yourself or the other person where they've been triggered, and then they're not willing to, or I'm not willing, or you're not willing to go underneath that trigger because it's too painful. And what I've learned about triggers, they're actually an amazing gift if you look at them objectively. Like, instead of trying to avoid this trigger or defend it, you can be like, oh my gosh, what is this trying to tell me?
Right.
And it's trying to tell you it's trying to pull you down deep within yourself to discover the cure, the solve. And there's something, at least when I've gone down this path in my triggers, there's something amazing down there that opens up into, I guess, like a phoenix from the ashes kind of thing.
Right.
Or a new discovery, a new perspective on things, a new freedom from something. But it's so not easy, so hard.
Definitely.
That's why we shut down. That's why we don't dialogue, or we feel like we can't dialogue with whoever. And I think in a cosmic weird level, that's why we're attracted to those people, or that's why we got in a relationship with those people, because they're trying to show us we have some unresolved stuff. Nobody's exempt. Everybody's got something you keep learning and growing with.
Right.
And you can bury it with whatever and run from it, hide from it, but eventually it'll catch up with you. At least I've experienced that in my own life. I'm still struggling with multiple triggers and negative paths of thinking that I don't feel like I have any solve to.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's rough when you feel out of control of something like is so important as to your own well-being.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's the standard, have you tried exercising more?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
XYZ, go down the list.
Yeah.
The thing. Eat healthy, socialize, don't do drugs, whatever.
Yeah.
But what happens if those don't work?
Yeah.
And then you kind of, it can lead to just, the helplessness.
Yeah.
And so it is hard. I think even dangerous.
Yeah.
To look inward.
Okay.
Too hard.
I feel you. Yeah.
If you push yourself too hard, maybe you land on a conclusion that is extremely detrimental, and you don't see a way out of it. So you do some dumb things.
Yeah. I feel you.
I think it's important to be mindful of your limits currently.
Yes. Yep.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, comfort zone, growth zone, danger zone. Yeah, man. Being kind to yourself too, like realizing, well, that's too much right now, and making a boundary and being okay with not going there at this point. No, I relate to that. I think it's good to treat yourself or treat myself like a little kid. Like if I was my own parent, how would I take care of myself right now?
Right.
With the way I think about myself, and then the environments actually I'm putting myself in. Whether we like it or not, we're really affected by those we're around or the environment we're in. Whether we like it or not, it affects us.
Right.
Or what we choose to read or what we choose to listen to, or it really does osmosize or saturate into our being. Yeah, man, like this stuff, I don't think there's any ultimate answer to.
Well, there is none. I mean, there's no right or wrong. There's just what works for you. If you've even found that yet.
Yeah, I think that's where surrender comes in. That point of surrender, and then again, I guess I've had enough experiences where, I mean, it's so hard, but friendliness comes in the weirdest situations, like just this conversation tonight. Like I didn't have a great day. I went through my mental battles.
Yeah.
I faced some depression today, but then look, now we're having this. I didn't know this was going to happen.
Yeah. Happy surprises.
Yeah. Right. Like I think life works that way. And just learning to flow with that, and I think the universe is for us, not against us.
See, I really, really want to adopt that, and it's hard to. I struggle. I don't want to put it. I guess I struggle with doing that. I guess I don't need to really.
Or believing that.
Yeah, to believing that. I want to really. I've gone through a lot lately, and
yeah, I feel you.
I like to think that it is all for a reason. Maybe this is what is supposed to happen, or maybe this needed to happen so that good things can come later that I just can't even think about right now.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And it's just crazy because when I think back on that, and there's just been so many but there's just been so many points where I can pick out the exact moment where if something had just been B instead of A.
Yeah.
Or something, my life would have been completely different right now.
Oh yeah, I do that too. But yeah.
But I guess I also don't know if that would have been a better choice or a better outcome. But from here, the grass is greener.
It's about to end in 10 seconds, just so you know.
Bye.
Bye. This has been awesome. This conversation keep going. Okay, now it's rolling. I don't know if that's better or worse, but see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. There's that saying when the pain of, you heard that, when the pain of staying the same is greater than change, then change will happen.
Yeah.
Just speaking for myself, like I've had multiple painful experiences. Probably gonna have more.
Yeah.
And the thing that's kind of landed is two things. One is kind of this idea of an eternal journey, and this is just a little blip. And this little blip is in a very low frequency place.
What do you mean when you say low frequency?
I could liken it to like a spot of, I'm just seeing if it's getting too wet, the recording. Like think of like a white snowbank.
Okay.
And then there's like a speck on it.
Okay.
So think of the universe as like this white snowbank going forever in every direction.
Okay.
And then there's one little black dot. Okay. We happen to be living on that black dot.
Okay.
So when you compare it that way, it's like, oh, no wonder things are so awful. Like, not just for you or me, but like, if you honestly look at this world and its history and its current state and everything it's been through and how we've treated each other as humans and the environment and everything, it's like, man, we are ruthless.
Yeah, we really are.
And this is a ruthless place, and like, it is. But there's also amazing things that have happened. Amazing connections, amazing heroism or feats and love and support and so many amazing things also. So that I think it's easy. Well, there just has to be something better.
I agree.
And so that's when I'm in those dark places like that continually, that's what pulls me out. And that's just my own journey. And I go to those places like at summer camp, or that connection with someone where it's like, wow, this is amazing. Or when I'm alone and I get that feeling I was talking about, feeling saturated in that deep connection of warmth. It's like that is, and it was sober, right? These are very sober experiences, and there's something to that. And so I just aim for that. I'm not always gonna feel it or get it, but I aim for it, and I can kind of relax too and take the burden off of trying to figure it all out. If this is just a little blip in the huge eternal process of my own journey as well as humanity's, and also looking at humanity's progression, it's way better than it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, really, I mean, yeah, awful things are still happening, but comparatively, like back in the day, is like every tribe was against every tribe, and there was war and everything and torture and like all over the world.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't just pockets of the world; it was the entire world.
Right.
Now it's not so much that case. I mean, there still is that happening, but not to the extent that it was, which is really surprising population-wise. Like, there's so many more people, but way less. I guess I don't know what the math is, but how do you do that comparative? Even though there's less numbers, there's less of said thing like torture.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what words to use there, but you see where I'm going.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It like inflation.
Yeah.
Essentially, could be applied.
Okay.
So like $1 back then was a lot or a good amount. Now it's like, are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you give $1 tip and someone gives you stink eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, same thing. There's tons more people, and there's, in correlation, much less torture overall of
of
the whole number. But yeah, I mean, I think back then it was just greed. I mean, even now, everything's just kind of greed. I think the human race is very greedy, inherently.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants stuff, or to accomplish something, or to have more of whatever.
Yeah.
And back then it was, land, power, still is today, but back then there wasn't a whole lot else going on aside from, I really wish I had the waterfront view. I'm gonna go kill that guy.
Yeah.
Take his land. Now it's just making more money.
Yeah.
And back then we also didn't have cities of millions of people. I guess depending on how far you go back or whatever.
Yeah.
But a city or a town of 200, 250 people, everyone probably knows each other after a couple of years of just living there. So I think the collective have a greater voice back then than they do now. Here it's very hard to get a group of people together to support or who do support a cause and have their voice be heard in a meaningful way, and have things actually come of this gathering, this like-mindedness.
Yeah.
So again, that kind of leads back to the hopelessness of I feel like you can't really make a difference.
I think
on a large scale.
I think we relate, Logan.
Uh-huh.
And and everyone's struggle's different, but I think we have a similar torture on an existential level.
Yeah. So.
I think I sense that I've known you a while. I can sense you're very thoughtful, smart.
Thank you.
And also you're empathetic. And that's a recipe for an existential crisis.
Disappointment.
Yeah, no, and I suffer that too. Like I get so frustrated with, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why, we could go down that rabbit trail, probably shouldn't,
God.
but
Probably shouldn't know.
yeah, but you see where I'm going. Like,
Yeah.
with those three qualities, it's that recipe for.
Let me walk you down real quick, kind of where I've ended up after years and years of laying in bed. Why are we here?
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've kind of almost just accepted that I'm here. I need to live my life to its fullest extent. That's my goal. That's my purpose.
Yeah. Bringing it back a tad.
Yeah, bringing it back a tad.
Yeah.
And I really, really struggle just being happy. Mm-hmm. And so that's just kind of been my ultimate goal for a while now. Is I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't need a lot. I don't need many things. I just need some friends. I need, a job I don't hate completely.
Yeah.
And I just want to pay my bills and I want to just live.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to it than that, but so I think about that. I accept that, but I still have a really hard time with meeting those goals.
Sure.
For myself, and I think it's just because I don't know. I feel like I would just rather have an area of land where people can go.
Oh my gosh.
And just live.
Like, we both want to start a commune.
Yeah, I mean, I get the movies, I get the, I know these things seem kind of nuts and crazy from the outside.
Yeah.
And maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about just a commune. I'm just talking about, like, why can't we have a section of land somewhere in the world?
Yeah.
Where if you don't want to live by the rules or the pay taxes or whatever, like,
it probably just a little less greedy.
a little less greedy. Like, I just want to wake up, I want to work in my garden,
Yeah.
I want to take care of my animals,
Just yeah.
and then I want to just, work on brewing my homemade beer or something,
Yeah.
and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Simpler.
Simpler. Like, I have already accepted that I can't do much with the problems that are too big for me to handle right now. Mm-hmm. So my internal solution is I need to find a place like I'm describing.
Yeah.
I want to get to a point.
Those places exist.
Yeah, but
And or can be created.
yeah, they could be. But then someone's got to give up land, right?
Yeah.
Or someone's got to have enough money to buy it.
Hey man, if I get millions, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, there you go. But then you got to pay rent. Or
Yeah.
land tax or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you.
It's just like, I think a group of people of however large living in the forest somewhere is probably a lot less harmful and taxing on the planet than constantly logging everything out and destroying the beautifulness of
Yeah. I think
the surrounding areas.
I think what you're aching for, and we all are, is just how we should all live, how we all want to live, and we've gotten, or just haven't realized as a world, that's all we really want, and we try to fill those voids with stuff and kind of superficial accomplishments.
Yeah.
And then that's where the unnecessary destruction comes in, or unnecessary use of natural resources.
Yeah.
So I do think this could be a consciousness shift or a paradigm shift that doesn't necessarily need to be like I have to be in a commune or I have to be in a whatever, but just a way of thinking as a world that is just more understanding of what we actually all want. I guess back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Like, hey, are everybody's basic needs met? Like, I think there was a study done, like somebody that makes 70 grand a year versus somebody who makes 250 or 300 or 400 or millions a year is no more happy.
I can see that completely.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, then what's the point of that excess money? Unless you're, running a company that's providing a ton of jobs, and that's good too.
Even
But
then, like, there's a point where you don't need to cross.
yeah,
I really do believe there is too much money. Like, I think the gaming industry is a huge example of this. It's, they treat their workers like garbage, and it's all to push a game out as quickly as possible.
Are you talking about video games?
Yeah, video gaming.
Okay.
It's all to push a product out as quickly as possible, disregarding the quality of it and how they treat the people that work for them.
Yeah.
And it's all in the name of, we need to make this quarter release, or else it's not going to show up on our financials or whatever.
Yeah.
So, well, hold on. What if we just gave the people enough time and didn't make them work 80 hours a week?
Yeah.
They'd be happier.
Quality of life.
Product.
Quality of life. Yeah.
You make a little bit less money. In fact, you'd make less right now. Maybe the game is so perfect because you gave them extra time that it's game of the year.
Yeah. I don't think it's too much money. I think it's a distribution of money. I think there's a lot of money that's just sitting. One example would be what's that called? eBay. When eBay came out, so much liquidation was freed up. So much value was sitting in people's storage units and garages.
Right.
And then when eBay came out, like, all that money got to be released.
Right.
And that's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
If the money is being exchanged and it's flowing and it's contributing to somebody's quality of life, I think it doesn't really matter how much, but just as long as it is.
Right.
On a more of an even balanced level, as opposed to a hoarding kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the money just sitting in a pile. It's like, well, it's not doing anything there. It's not feeding anybody.
Yeah.
It's going to sit there until you die, and then it goes to another person, and then it just sits there until they die. And
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to come off as like man, I really just don't want to do anything except sit around and have someone give me money.
No, I don't think,
But, I fear that that's what a lot of people who are strongly against this idea or would say is like, you're just a lazy guy who wants to have me give you money so that you can do nothing.
Yeah. No, there's a sweet spot to it.
Definitely. And
what another maybe optimistic view is something that I've been noticing in my facilitation world, because I work a lot with corporate groups. And without me, how do I say this, trying for or seeking out these things like the Enneagram or Brene Brown, I've noticed that different companies are really hungry to have workshops or facilitations around learning about the Enneagram, learning about Dare to Lead, Brene Brown stuff. And what's fascinating to me is that if corporations are running the world, and technology is running the world, which, I mean, we just have to face the facts it is, then if the corporate heart is changed, then the world will change. So I don't think things like corporations and tech is something to like run away from or avoid or abstain from, but something to accept, but change the heart that's using those things. Then to me, that's a better world.
I agree. And I think that's pretty straightforward. If people were better, the world would be better. But how do you convince? How do you have a conversation? Unless I honestly don't. I don't know how that would even what that would look like. Like, how does someone try to break through? Like, hey, did you really need to charge $600 for these EpiPens? No. So why are you doing it? That type of thing. Like, straight. It's just greed.
Yeah. I think it's just greed on a different.
And that might be the worst example.
Well, it's all relative, right? So I'm greedy about things that may not seem a big deal, but maybe
Can I have one example?
Wow, maybe I shot myself in the foot. Now I got to think of one. Okay, when I was addicted to gambling, right? Like, you win, and you're like, and you're up, right? Yeah. And you see it in movies too.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
just walk out. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? But you don't.
No.
You're stuck in this weird trap.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think,
which, by the way, is heavily exploited nowadays.
What is?
This entire thing that you're describing.
Oh,
Gambling.
got it. Like gambling in general, or a dopamine fix.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Any
a
kind of-
quick little dopamine rushes to the brain.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. And so somebody who, like the EpiPen thing, in their reality, the relativity of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to them is not a big scale.
Right.
But to somebody else, like that's huge. So that could feed
Oh yeah, absolutely.
X amount of people. But in their paradigm, that just doesn't compute. So I think it's getting back to that understanding of really asking oneself, what do I really want out of life? Do I really want to just live in numbers? Like numbers is my reality, the zeros behind my thing. I get that business is good and that it pushes innovation and creativity and new tech. And
mention that is, if everyone lived like the way I was describing, we wouldn't have satellites.
yeah, exactly. So there's a sweet spot again.
Yeah. Or is there? Can there be?
I would say yes. I would say yes.
Is that the optimism?
That is the optimism in me. Well, and I think it's also just if I honestly, I try to do this thing where I pretend I'm an alien that just arrived on this planet and I look at everything objectively, and then try to calculate or assess, okay, this is the state of things here. With that, when I do that, I do see a progression towards a better world. Okay. I know I could be argued that point up and down, and people probably would get very upset with what I just said based on their paradigm. But I'm just speaking for myself, and maybe I'm wrong. But I do think that there's an upward trend of humanity in the world that people are, I guess, understanding more of the real joy of the simplicity of life, but also the creativity of life. I think you can have a simple life and less stuff, but still be able to innovate and create.
Definitely.
And have...
Yeah, I can see how that can happen.
Yeah.
I think... I mean, I can envision, someone, who has their basic needs met, painting masterpieces. But I can't really see that same person developing the technology that lets us walk and breathe on Jupiter or some crazy thing, right?
Why not?
I don't know. It's just...
Why? It's just their different canvas, right?
Yeah, I could see that. I guess it's just the entry point. Anyone can pick up a paintbrush and make art.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be a doctor.
True. But
just because they picked up a scalpel.
No, for sure. But that's.
Everyone has the capability.
I don't think. Yeah.
I don't want to say that certain types of people don't have potential to do certain things.
I think you're creating an unfair. How do I say it? Standard, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're putting like painters at a category, and then doctors are above.
No, so what I'm saying
I'm misunderstanding. Okay.
So when you said being creative and stuff.
Yeah.
When I think creative, I think of creating something from inside. You're letting out your feelings and your emotions.
Okay.
So when I hear creative, that's what I think. I understand
okay.
that there's also discovery and innovation in a way that would promote the human race as a whole to become more advanced.
Gotcha.
So, are those the same things?
Maybe they're. I guess when I think of create, I think of.
I guess they're technically both creating something.
Yeah, because I think of, okay, there is this thing over here. We'll call it, like A, the letter.
Right.
And then there's this thing over here, O.
Okay.
And they weren't connected at all. But you were able to know enough about A and know enough about O that you could put them together and create a whole new letter.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
So that created something.
Right.
And I think you can do that with paint, with an expression of videography or photography,
yeah.
and I also think you can do that with engineering and mechanics and.
Yeah, I guess it's hard for me to look at programming and engineering in general as artwork.
Okay, because you put art in a category of pastels and
not necessarily just pastels and stuff.
Watercolor.
I guess it could just be that my relationship with the engineering industry in general.
Okay.
And how I just personally feel about it.
Sure.
I might have a bias, so it's hard
Yeah.
for me to like sit at a computer, write a program out,
and say it's art.
and be happy that I spent my time on this. Like,
Okay.
I could do it. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not doing it because I want to be creative. I'm doing it because it's my job.
Oh. And so you're saying with the pressure for tech innovation or whatever is sometimes could feel like a cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
somebody
the
else's
pressure of wanting. I think there's a difference between outside pressure and inside pressure. I think if you're like, what's the example? Like, let's say you want to do. Oh, so pardon the voice crack.
happens.
You want to do
Puberty.
100 consecutive pull-ups.
Yeah.
And you train and train and train and train and train, and you're so close, and you feel it in your chest, but in a good way. Like, oh man, I'm making progress. Like the next time I go and try this, I'm gonna get it.
It builds on itself.
It builds on itself.
There's
but
momentum.
It's coming from inside. You're doing it to yourself, and I think usually, if the pressure is naturally coming from just you, it's almost always positive.
Okay.
Because it's you wanting to be a better you. It's not Jason wanting me to be a better Logan.
Oh.
I want to do it because I want to do it, not because someone else does. So, I feel like I don't know if I feel off track suddenly.
No, there's no off track. This is where the conversation's going. I think can I unpack that a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm wondering I think there can be benefit though if I'm performing to a level that somebody else is expecting me to. I don't think that is always a bad thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think that if you do that too much though, you can kind of lose yourself.
Definitely. And I think that kind of ties back in. I don't think I said specifically that all outside pressure is bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Inside pressure is generally welcome.
Yeah.
I think just because again it's you naturally wanting to improve.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't want to explore a new outlet, or maybe you're happy where you are and your boss isn't, or something along those lines. And
sure.
so that's where the negative pressure can come. Like you'll do it. You'll push through. You'll persevere, and you get your job done.
Yeah.
And you don't feel good about it, but you did it. Again, the personal experience. I'm not saying this is how everyone feels.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's relating this back to just being creative, and having artwork. I also struggle with finding a creative outlet that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't paint or draw.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I do anything that really creates.
Okay.
I did programming in the past, and I do feel those urges to get back on and make a little doodad here and there, but that usually dies away real quick.
What's been consistent, would you say? Like since you were young, that you feel like is always a little bit in your periphery?
Nothing.
Nothing that you've like naturally.
I used to draw as a kid. I don't anymore.
Well,
I've tried. Doesn't feel the same. I spend a lot of time searching for a passion. Something that I get excited about that isn't media consumption. Like, I don't want to live to play video games or watch movies or...
Do you enjoy media consumption?
I don't know. This is a thing that I realized some months ago. I stopped, like, all video game playing for, I think, 3.5 months. Because I couldn't convince myself that I actually enjoyed them. I think it's just a distraction.
Okay.
So I don't know if I do. Like, you watch a movie, I can say at the end if it was good or not, but I don't know if I really wanted to watch one. Or
Would there be anything? Can I just speak to my own experience with you? And like,
please.
What I noticed when you were working at Tree to Tree is you were really good at solving systems.
Problem solving?
Yeah, like finding a loophole in a system or a kink in a system, overall operation system, and coming up with really good solves, little tweaks that could change things in a big way. Is that something that you just find you're just good at, or would you say you're good at it and you enjoy it?
The thing is, this all ties back together. I love that.
Okay.
I love doing that type of stuff.
Okay.
I love optimizing. I love efficiency.
That's creativity, man.
Yeah, it is. But the problem again is circling back to not having been heard. And I'm not saying this is what happened to Tree to Tree necessarily.
Oh, but it's like a general thing in your life.
A general thing, you know.
Oh.
You
need to start your own business. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, with what money?
You don't need money to start it. I mean, I don't know. You just start it.
Well, see, then that goes back to the passion. Like, what do I actually want to do? Like, if I had a business, what would I do?
Okay, this is fun. See, now there's a little bit of a. Now what? Like.
Yeah. Well, see, this is
a catalyst.
Yeah, I've looked into a lot of different things, and I always find a reason that I don't like it. Whatever I explain.
Okay, maybe you just haven't found it yet.
Yeah, but when do I start finding? When do I get close?
Well, I can say for my own life, when I hit 30, I had a crisis where I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life?
Yeah.
Who am I? Like, I've just wasted, and then I realized, wait, hold on. I've been doing what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life since I was 20, which is facilitating.
Right.
But I didn't see it.
Okay.
I didn't see it at all, right?
Yeah.
I was constantly looking and but I always had a gig facilitating. Okay. And I just thought of it as a gig. And then when I hit 30, I'm like, no, this is my jam.
Yeah.
And then I just dove into the industry. And that's why I have, I'm in every nook and cranny of this industry, building, training, inspecting, blah, blah. But still with the main passion being facilitating.
Right.
So maybe it's something you've always been doing, you just haven't seen it yet. And again, that gets back to why I believe the universe is a friendly place. We just don't see it a lot of times.
Yeah. I don't know why. Why do you think that is, though?
Because this is just a blip, man. Like this.
Even if it's a blip, why do we tend to gravitate and focus on negative things?
Because it's survival brain. Because your brain is trying to protect yourself. Yeah. So it's constantly what's bad, what's negative. Okay, avoid that. But it's a time for us to disassociate from that and realize we're more than that and see that as a tool that's trying to protect us, but it's not who we are.
Okay.
So to me, that's the next level of consciousness that's being raised in the planet is being creative over reactive. You change.
Yeah, I watched the first video.
Did I say that in that video?
Yeah, you did.
I learned that at a workshop. I saw it on one of those posters. That. I was like, this is amazing. And this is before the pandemic. Right. And I'm like, that mantra's helped me so much. I'm like, be creative, don't be reactive. But I think on a global scale, that's the next level of spiritual, biological evolution.
Right.
I think it's just the phase we're in. And again, I mean, we're animalistic. Like, look at how we've treated each other. But I think we're growing out of that.
I think you're right. Here's a good question. Do you think we're going to evolve out of empathy?
No.
Why is that? It seems kind of like a weakness overall, no? Or do you think it serves a higher purpose of, because we have empathy, we can communicate and have reasonable conversations with each other? Do you think it's a bigger benefit or not?
I think it's for sure a bigger benefit. I feel like it's what connects us.
Okay.
And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe we're defining empathy as two different things.
I think the ability to feel and take into consideration others' emotions.
Yeah, that's empathy, right?
Yeah.
And understand. I think that's, yeah.
Because, from the outside, you see all these big corporations who seem to not give empathy 2 cents.
Yeah.
EpiPen guy. Back to that.
Oh,
example.
So you're thinking that's dying out?
I don't know if it's dying out or if it's just that those who seem to lack empathy tend to make it further financially.
Yeah, this is a problem. Really smart people that don't have empathy are the most dangerous people in the world.
Yeah,
and they're really smart. And
what do we do about it?
Let it.
Will it?
Yeah, it will. It'll get better.
I hope you're right.
That's what I lean towards. It might get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But it's gonna get better. Again, black dot on a white snowbank.
Right.
I hate using the black and white thing, but it's the best way I could define that metaphor. God made dirt so dirt don't hurt.
Yeah.
We're living on a piece of it. That's funny. Oh wow, it's going to 32.